Well, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is joining us now for more. And Mr. Secretary, President Biden is blaming this situation on the agreement you made with the Taliban. What do you say to that?
Well, it's a pretty pathetic effort to shift blame. The responsibility for what's happening today in Kabul falls squarely on the leadership, the commander-in-chief who's there in charge, who made the terrible set of decisions that led to what you're seeing today on television. They decided to pull out the military before they got civilians out. They hadn't adequately planned. And as for the agreement, the Taliban clearly broke the agreement. And President Trump was unambiguously clear. You break this agreement, we will come break you. We will come inflict enormous costs on you. We're not going to beg you not to come into our embassy. We're going to come to your village and inflict enormous pain on you until you comply with the set of terms that you signed up for. One of the key terms was a power sharing agreement. The Taliban clearly violated this, and instead of saying, well, you violated the agreement, we're not going to finish our drawdown in Afghanistan, the Biden administration says, nope, we're going to take everybody out without a plan, without a systemic thought as to how we're actually going to deal with this result. History will prove the Trump administration had drawn down safely and securely. We had around 2,500 U.S. forces, about 5,000 NATO forces on the ground when we departed. President Trump was very clear to me and to the Department of Defense that we were going to make sure that this was an orderly plan to withdraw that protected the important American interest of making sure that we were never attacked from this place again. And the Biden administration has now pulled the pin, right? They pulled the last stick out of the Jenga puzzle. The chaos has ensued. We can't even get the President of the United States today to explain why it is he allowed this to happen.
We understand that the Taliban has taken over an enormous amount of armament, that they have drones, they have the Bagram airfield, they got other things. Could you tell us what extent did the material we left behind?
So I can't tell you for sure because I don't know precisely what they left behind. I can certainly talk to this in great detail. I was in the room for meetings over the course of my entire 4 years where we talked about this very set of operations, how we were thinking about this. President Trump was clear. If they scare an American, if they hurt an American, we're going to impose all American power to impose real costs on the Taliban. We want a peaceful, reconciled Afghanistan so that we can depart in an orderly way and protect the things that matter to the United States. A key piece of this was to make sure that we got all of our equipment out. President Trump, I can't tell you how many times he looked at the military leadership and said, I want every stick of American equipment out of there. I want it all. And then when we get to that place, take the time that you need to do that. When we get to that place, then we can continue to reduce our force posture there. I don't know what all they left behind. I hope they left it behind in a condition that the Taliban cannot use it against either the Afghan people or against Americans. I fear that that's not the case.
Let me ask you, what's this going to do to our policy with Iran, China, Russia? How will they regard us now?
Yeah, we've talked about the tactical situation on the ground. It's worth one more thought. I must say to all the folks who fought there, all the young men and women who risked their lives, some who lost family members or injured there, your fight was noble. The work was good. The destruction of Al-Qaeda was complete and important, and we did good work there. So this was a political failure, not a failure of our young men and women who were fighting for us. And I mentioned that in the context of what's going on around the world. I hope the world will see that we still are a very capable fighting force, that our young men and women are entirely capable of doing their mission. I fear that they will now see that American leadership has left the global stage, that we're in retreat, whether it's handing the Russians a pipeline or you mentioned earlier what's going on at our southern border. We saw what the Obama administration did when President Biden was the vice president, when Bashar Assad fired chemical weapons at his own citizens. They refused to impose costs on him. There's a long history of President Biden not demonstrating the strength and resolve and the leadership that we need on the American stage. It's not about starting wars. We went 4 years without starting a war. And we went the last over 12 months without a single American killed in Afghanistan, in spite of the fact that we drew down over 80% of our soldiers. The world is watching President Biden. They're watching America. And when President Biden says America is back, I hope he doesn't mean we're back to the old days of Jimmy Carter. That would be a disaster for American foreign policy and, frankly, a disaster for global security and peace as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing. God bless you. Appreciate it so much for being here.
Have a good